The courtroom was quiet when he walked in, too quiet for what was about to happen. A middle-aged man in a leather jacket, car keys jingling in his fist, looked around Judge Judy's courtroom like it belonged to him. The clerk hadn't even finished announcing the charge when he blurted out, "I'm not paying a cent." Gasps rippled through the gallery. No one ever said that here, not before the judge even spoke. Judge Judy looked up from the file, one eyebrow rising like a warning flare. "You're refusing before you even hear what I have to say?" she asked. The man smirked. "Doesn't matter what you say. I already pay taxes. I'm done feeding the system." What he didn't know, what the audience was about to find out, was that this single arrogant sentence would cost him his license, his pride, and the illusion that confidence could replace accountability. His record read like a disaster waiting for a witness. 3 unpaid tickets, 1 previous suspension, and a court date he'd skipped last spring. He'd walked in expecting a debate. He was about to experience a demolition. Judge Judy closed the folder slowly, the way a surgeon lays down a scalpel before the incision. "You came here for justice," she said evenly, "but what you're about to get is perspective." The gallery leaned forward. Everyone could sense it. The shift in air, the tightening of silence before the storm. Cameras captured the faintest twitch in her expression, part disbelief, part disappointment. "Sir," she continued, "you may think you understand how this courtroom works. You don't." The man crossed his arms, leaning back with a half-laugh. "I know exactly how it works. You're gonna find me, pretend it's about safety, then go to lunch." For the first time, Judy smiled, but it wasn't the kind that forgives. It was the kind that signals a verdict long before the gavel falls. "Then let's see how lunch tastes after I'm done," she said softly. The audience murmured. Somewhere behind the cameras, a producer whispered, "We just went viral." Because in that single moment, before any evidence, before any defense, the battle lines were drawn between arrogance and accountability. What the man thought was just another ticket would soon become the clip that millions replayed as proof that disrespect has a price tag. He was about to learn the hard way that in Judge Judy's courtroom, pride doesn't just come before the fall. It is the fall. And if you think this judge is about to let him walk away untouched, think again. Hit subscribe right now, because 93% of viewers who watch these moments never subscribe. And this case will remind you exactly why arrogance never wins in Judge Judy's courtroom. When the bailiff called his name, Ryan Keller, age 43, reckless driving, excessive speed, he didn't even flinch. He stood there chewing gum, sunglasses still on inside the courtroom, as if Judge Judy were just another checkpoint on his morning route. The audience could already tell this wasn't going to be a quiet hearing. Ryan's arrogance wasn't loud. It was casual, practiced, the kind that comes from thinking you've outsmarted rules your whole life. He tossed his car keys onto the podium, leaned forward and said, "Let's make this quick." Judge Judy looked up slowly. "Mr. Keller, I'll be the one who decides how quick this goes." That one line shifted the balance instantly. The laughter that tried to form in Ryan's throat died halfway. Judy continued, her tone even, almost polite. "You're charged with driving 88 miles an hour in a 55 zone. The officer reports you were weaving between lanes." Ryan shrugged. "Everyone speeds, Judge. I just got unlucky." It was the same tone gamblers use when the cards turn against them, half joke, half denial. Judy flipped through the paperwork, each page sounding louder than his excuses. "Mr. Keller," she said without looking up, "is it true this is your 3rd citation for reckless driving in 2 years?" He rolled his eyes. "Depends on what you call reckless. Sometimes you just gotta move with traffic." "Move with traffic?" Judy repeated, finally locking eyes with him. "You were passing traffic at 88. That's not movement, that's endangerment." The audience chuckled softly, but Ryan didn't. He was too busy doubling down. "I pay my taxes," he said flatly. "That should cover it." Judy's hand stopped mid-page. "Excuse me? I said I already pay the city enough. These tickets are just revenue. I'm not paying another dime." The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was loaded. Every viewer watching from home knew they'd just witnessed a man cross an invisible line. Judy leaned back slightly, almost amused. "Mr. Keller, did you come here to defend yourself or to audition for contempt of court?" He smirked again. "I came here to tell the truth." "Good," she said, "because the truth is about to get expensive." Behind the glass, producers whispered, sensing the beginning of something viral. The bailiff shifted, subtly preparing for what always follows ego explosion. Ryan didn't notice. He was too busy rehearsing his next mistake. He muttered, "You people just love making examples out of working folks." Judy's eyes flicked toward him. "I don't make examples, Mr. Keller. I make consequences." And just like that, the tone of the room changed completely. The smirk on his face faltered, not gone yet, but cracking. Everyone could feel the tension building toward something bigger, something irreversible. Because what Ryan didn't realize was that Judy had already read his entire file before he opened his mouth. His unpaid fines, his suspended license from a year ago, his failed court appearance he'd forgotten to mention. She wasn't deciding if he was guilty. She was deciding how much of his arrogance would cost him before she was done. The case was no longer about a speeding ticket. It was about pride, disguised as principle. And Judge Judy was about to remind him that pride doesn't stand a chance against the truth. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and looked directly at him. That quiet, surgical pause she used before every verbal dissection. "Mr. Keller," she said, "you seem very confident for someone with a suspended license." The courtroom stilled. Ryan blinked, the smirk returning for just a second before slipping. "Suspended?" he scoffed. "That's ancient history. I already paid that off." Judy flipped the page. "Really? Because according to the DMV, your driving privileges were reinstated temporarily pending proof of compliance, which, according to this document, you never submitted." Ryan shrugged, arms crossed. "I didn't see the point. It's all red tape." Judy's tone hardened. "No, Mr. Keller, it's called accountability." The audience was dead silent now. Even the bailiff had his eyes locked on Judy's face, sensing the storm brewing. She leaned forward. "Do you think the law applies only to other people?" Ryan gave a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I think the law applies when it makes sense. This doesn't." Judy's expression didn't change. So we should just let drivers decide when the rules make sense." "I'm saying," he snapped, "if the city didn't nickel and dime people like me, maybe I wouldn't be here." There it was, the excuse, polished and predictable. Judy nodded slowly. "So let me understand. You drove 88 miles per hour in a 55, endangered everyone on that highway, ignored prior fines, and failed to comply with a reinstatement order. And your defense is that the city made you do it?" Ryan's jaw tensed. "I'm just saying it's not fair." "Fair?" Judy's voice sharpened. "Fair is a word people use when they've run out of facts." The audience murmured, half in awe, half in warning. Ryan's composure cracked for the first time. He leaned forward, voice rising. "You don't get it. You sit up there in your robe pretending to understand people like me, but you don't." The air thinned. That sentence, of people like me, landed like a stone in water. Judy didn't blink. She spoke quietly, but the force of it rolled through the room. "Mr. Keller, I've been on this bench longer than you've been an adult. I've seen people just like you. Men who mistake defiance for strength and arrogance for honesty. You think shouting makes you brave? It makes you smaller." The smirk was gone now, replaced by tight-lipped silence. His hands fidgeted against the podium. "You think I'm scared of a ticket?" he said weakly. "No," Judy replied. "You're scared of the truth. That you've been wrong for so long. You don't remember what accountability feels like." Behind the cameras, a producer whispered, "That's the clip." Everyone knew it. The moment Judy's calm precision sliced through his swagger. He tried one last deflection. "This system just wants money. That's all." Judy tilted her head. "Then let's see how expensive your pride gets." The gallery's hush was absolute. Every camera locked on the defendant's face as realization began to creep in. Judy's tone turned razor sharp. "Mr. Keller, you walked in here thinking you were smarter than the law. But you forgot one thing. In my courtroom, respect is the only currency that buys leniency." Ryan swallowed hard but said nothing. For the first time, he looked unsure. The battle between arrogance and authority had officially begun, and every viewer watching knew he was already losing. The silence in the courtroom lasted barely 2 seconds before Ryan's temper detonated. He slammed his palm against the podium, his voice rising enough to echo off the oak panels. "You know what? This whole thing's a joke. You people sit up there acting like gods while the rest of us scrape by. I'm not paying another dollar to this crooked system." Gasps rippled through the gallery. The bailiff shifted forward, but Judy raised her hand slightly, commanding calm without saying a word. Her eyes stayed locked on Ryan. "Are you finished?" she asked, her voice deceptively soft. Ryan smirked, mistaking restraint for surrender. "Yeah, I'm finished. And I'm walking out of here when I'm done talking." The audience could feel it the moment the fuse reached the powder. Judy leaned forward, voice low but searing. "Mr. Keller, let me educate you before you dig your hole any deeper. You don't walk out of my courtroom until I say you do." Ryan laughed, nervous but loud. "What are you going to do, take my license?" "You can't stop me from driving." Judy's pen stopped mid-note. Her eyes flicked up, sharp as glass. "You're right," she said calmly. "I can't stop you from driving. But the state can." And it just did. He blinked. "What?" "You just told me you intend to keep driving despite suspension, despite unpaid fines, and despite endangering the public. That is willful disregard of court orders. As of this moment, your driver's license is suspended, effective immediately." The words hit like a hammer. The gallery gasped again. Ryan's face went pale. You can't just— Oh, I can, Judy interrupted, voice rising for the first time. And I just did. You thought your arrogance would buy you power. All it bought you was a suspension, a contempt citation, and a very public lesson in humility. The man's voice cracked. You can't do this over words. Words? Judy shot back. Mr. Keller, words build laws. Words break families. Words create chaos when they come from arrogance instead of reason. You came in here shouting about fairness while breaking every rule you could. Now you want fairness? Consider this your first taste of it. The audience erupted in murmurs. Judy's voice cut through them cleanly. You've called this court a joke, the system crooked, and the law optional. And yet here you stand, shocked that consequences are real. That's not injustice, Mr. Keller, that's irony. Ryan's shoulders sagged. He looked less like a rebel now and more like a man watching the ground crumble beneath him. I was just frustrated, he said quietly. So am I, Judy replied. But the difference is I don't take it out on everyone else. You had a chance to walk out of here with a fine and your dignity. You chose defiance. Now you'll leave with neither. The courtroom stayed perfectly still. Even the bailiff's stance softened. A sign of respect for a moment that had just shifted from spectacle to lesson. Judy leaned back, gathering her papers, her tone calm again. I'll finalize the penalty shortly, she said. But before I do, I'd like you to consider something, Mr. Keller. You think the law is your enemy? But the truth is, it's the only thing still trying to protect you. From yourself. The narrator's voice slid in over the hush. Smooth and steady. Every once in a while, arrogance walks into Judge Judy's courtroom expecting entertainment, and walks out having learned the price of ego. If you believe Judge Judy was right to shut him down, comment respect the bench below, and hit subscribe for more true moments where arrogance meets accountability. For a long moment, no one said a word. The air itself seemed to thicken. Ryan stood frozen, jaw tight, fists clenched, the reality of what just happened barely sinking in. Judge Judy flipped the file shut, her composure unshaken. You said you wanted fairness, she said evenly. You're about to get it. Ryan tried to recover his bravado, but it came out shaky now. This is insane. You can't just ruin someone's life because they talk back. Judy looked up sharply. I didn't ruin your life, Mr. Keller, you did. The moment you decided the rules applied to everyone but you. She pointed toward the screen behind her where his record appeared. 4 prior violations, 2 unpaid fines, 1 previous license suspension. This isn't one bad day. This is a pattern. A pattern that ends when someone finally tells you enough. Today, that someone is me. He laughed again, but it wasn't arrogance anymore. It was disbelief wrapped in panic. I need my car for work, he stammered. You should have thought about that before you decided to treat public roads like a racetrack, she replied. You don't get to gamble with other people's safety and then plead necessity. The gallery was dead quiet, all eyes on the man unraveling before them. His confidence had drained away, leaving only fragments of a man cornered by truth. I was just angry, he said. I've been dealing with a lot. So has everyone else, Judy said. But they don't get to break the law and then insult the people who enforce it. She leaned forward, eyes softening just slightly. Mr. Keller, let me ask you something. Do you have children? He hesitated. Yeah, 2. How old? 11 and 13, Judy nodded slowly. Do they ride in that car you were speeding in? He said nothing. I'll take that as a yes, she said. Then tell me something. What would you say to your daughter if another driver was going 88 miles an hour and slammed into you? Would you tell her that man was just frustrated too? Ryan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. His eyes flicked to the floor. Judy's tone stayed calm, but her words cut like glass. You see, Mr. Keller, every person who walks in here has a story. Some are tragic, some are frustrating, some are full of excuses. But the law doesn't bend to emotion, it protects people from it. The audience felt it. That shift from courtroom entertainment to moral reckoning. Judy wasn't lecturing anymore. She was teaching, and Ryan for the first time looked like he was actually listening. Do you know what I see when I look at your record? She asked quietly. I see a man who keeps running from consequences faster every time until finally the road ran out. And today is that moment, the end of the road. Ryan rubbed his face, his voice trembling. I didn't think it would go this far. Judy's reply came like a whisper with the weight of a hammer. It always goes this far when arrogance replaces accountability. Then, for the first time, his shoulders dropped. He didn't argue. He didn't laugh. He just stood there, realizing he wasn't fighting a judge anymore. He was fighting himself. Judy softened, but only slightly. You know what gives me hope, she said? That you're still standing here. That means it's not too late to start listening. Ryan nodded faintly, eyes red. What do I do now? You start by stopping, Judy said. Stop blaming. Stop excusing. Stop talking long enough to hear where you went wrong. The law can punish you, but only you can change you. The audience sat in absolute silence, caught between empathy and awe. Judy leaned back and folded her hands. "Here's what's going to happen," she said. "You'll pay your outstanding fines, complete a defensive driving course, and submit proof of compliance before you even think about getting behind a wheel again. If you don't, you'll be back here, but next time it won't be a ticket. It'll be a warrant." Ryan nodded again, barely whispering, "Yes, Your Honor." For the first time since he walked in, the word honor didn't sound sarcastic, and as Judge Judy gathered her papers, the narrator's voice filled the silence. Some lessons in life come from loss. But in Judge Judy's courtroom, loss isn't the end. It's the beginning of accountability. If you believe this courtroom still teaches what the world too often forgets, comment accountability matters and subscribe right now. Because this story isn't about punishment, it's about transformation. And we're not done yet. When the gavel finally came down, the sharp crack echoed like a closing chapter. Ryan didn't move. He just stood there, breathing hard, his defiance completely gone. The same man who had marched in full of attitude now looked like he was trying to piece himself back together. Judge Judy watched him quietly. She didn't rush. She knew that silence sometimes did more than any verdict. "Mr. Keller," she said at last, "I want you to remember what happened here today, not because it embarrassed you, but because it saved you." He looked up, confused. "Saved me?" "Yes," Judy said. "You were driving down a road that only ends two ways, one in a courtroom and the other in a hospital. You were lucky enough to get the first." The words hung in the air. The audience leaned in. It wasn't anger anymore, it was wisdom. "You said earlier that you're tired of the system," she continued. "But what you really meant is that you're tired of being told no. You think rules exist to hold you back. They exist to stop you from destroying yourself." Ryan's face softened, his voice barely audible. "I guess I've been angry for a long time." Judy nodded slowly. "Anger's easy. Growth is hard. Anyone can yell at a cop or argue with a judge, but it takes a real man to look in the mirror and admit he's the problem." For the first time, Ryan didn't argue. He just nodded. His voice trembled. "I didn't mean to disrespect you, Your Honor." "I believe that," Judy said. "But understand this. Every courtroom you walk into reflects the life you live outside it. You walked in with arrogance, and that's exactly what life's been giving you back. Try walking in next time with humility, and you might be surprised what comes your way." The gallery was silent again, everyone feeling the shift. Judy wasn't breaking him down anymore. She was building something. Perspective, awareness, humanity. She pointed toward the clerk. "Before you leave, you'll sign the paperwork for your suspension and fines. The court will mail you instructions for reinstatement once you've completed your obligations." Then her tone softened just a fraction. "I don't enjoy taking away anyone's license, Mr. Keller. I enjoy giving them back to people who earn them." He looked at her, eyes glassy, voice quiet. "Maybe I needed this." Judy smiled faintly. "Most people do. The universe has a funny way of teaching us, first with whispers, then with warnings, and finally, if we don't listen, with walls. Today was your wall." The camera panned slightly to the audience, faces filled with that quiet blend of respect and realization. It wasn't about traffic violations anymore. It was about what happens when arrogance meets a mirror that doesn't lie. Judy gathered her notes, looked up one final time and said, "Court is adjourned." The bailiff called the next case, but everyone knew they'd just witnessed something bigger than a judgment. They'd witnessed a man who came to fight and left learning to listen. The narrator's voice returned smooth and reflective. "Sometimes justice isn't about punishment. It's about pause. It's about that one moment when a person finally sees the wreckage of their own choices and decides to stop driving blind." As Ryan stepped out of the courtroom, the heavy door shut behind him with a sound that seemed to echo more than it should. For the first time in years, he wasn't angry, he was quiet. The cameras caught that rare, unguarded look. A man realizing that the punishment he feared had turned into the wake-up call he needed. Outside, the afternoon light felt harsher than when he'd entered. Or maybe it wasn't the light that changed. Maybe it was him. He paused on the courthouse steps, fumbling with his car keys before remembering. They no longer meant anything. His license was gone, his pride shattered. But somewhere under all that loss, a strange calm began to rise, maybe for the first time in his life. He wasn't trying to win an argument. He was just trying to understand one. Inside, Judge Judy finished signing the paperwork. The bailiff, still shaking his head, said softly, "You got through to him today." Judy didn't look up. "That's not my job," she said. "My job is to hold up a mirror. What they see in it is up to them." She glanced toward the empty spot where Ryan had stood. "Some people need the law to remind them where the lines are drawn. Others need it to remind them they're capable of more than excuses." In the days that followed, Ryan's story spread online. Millions of views, Hundreds of thousands of comments. Not because people enjoyed watching him lose, but because they saw a piece of themselves in his fall. The moment his arrogance cracked, he became human. And that's what made it unforgettable. The narrator's voice returned one last time. Quiet but powerful. In a world where shouting often replaces accountability, Judge Judy reminds us that truth doesn't need volume, it needs courage. What broke Ryan that day wasn't the fine or the suspension. It was hearing, maybe for the first time, that the world doesn't owe you understanding until you earn it. Ryan's license was gone for 90 days, but the lesson would last far longer. He walked away humbler, smaller, but somehow freer. Because sometimes losing control is how you finally learn what control means. So, if you believe arrogance should always meet its match in truth, comment "Humility wins" below, and don't forget to subscribe to Judge Stories for more powerful moments where pride collides with justice. Because in this courtroom, the verdict is never just about the law. It's about who we become when it finds us.